What's new, 802? I'm Becca Hammond, and you're listening to Vermont Talks. Vermont Talks may include graphic or explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. On this week's episode of Vermont Talks, we have Old North End, sometimes abbreviated to O.N.E in all caps. Old North End is a hardcore band from Burlington, Vermont, combining old-school hardcore, punk, thrash, and metal. Old North End is on a mission to spread a positive message through their music and fury. Chris Oz, or Old North End Lamothe, is on vocals. John DePoe is on drums. Jason McSweeney is on guitar, and Eric Hodgson is on bass. Old North End is playing a show at the Monopole in Plattsburgh on November 5th. Go check them out. Welcome, Old North End, on the show.
How are you? Hello.
Hopefully everyone's awesome. Can't hear him. Hopefully.
Not bad for a Monday.
We've got Chris, Eric, and Jason, and Eric goes by Hodge, and Chris also goes by Oz. Welcome, guys. We're missing John. Sorry, John. Hope you feel better.
Hope that headache goes away, buddy. Thanks for having us.
I really hope his headache has gone away by the time the show airs. That would be terrible.
He'll be quick to cancel if not.
Okay, so let's start from wherever you guys want to start from in terms of time span. You kind of mentioned there was a previous iteration of Old North End, but that's not the current Old North End. So you said around 2015-ish?
Yeah, about 2015. Previous to that, Jason had the band for a few years before that with another lineup. I joined that lineup in 2015. That didn't last very long, and Jason and I kept on pushing for a couple years till we got to the lineup that we have now, basically, which is Hodge and Johnny. We had another guitar player for a few years, but he moved on to other stuff. So for the past 18 months, 2 years about, we're going on 18 months.
No, I think it's been
November will be 2 years on the release party, Jim's last show.
I thought we did that last year.
That was
in 2021.
Oh, you're right.
Because we recorded in 2020.
Okay, you're right. My bad.
Everybody lost a year. So
time is bad with me.
Yeah, time has been in flux for a while. The last 3 years, I'm like, when... It's all the one blur. It could have been
pandemic,
here.
We call it
3.
Pandemic time.
Well, it could have. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It could have been yesterday, last week, or it could have been 2 years ago.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's somewhere in there.
But yeah, so we have the new 4-piece right now that we're working with. It's been moving along quite well. We've actually, since we've gone to this lineup, we've been just going forward. We've been getting great shows and things have been moving forward. It's been working really smooth. A lot easier to move 4 guys around New England on the weekend than 5. But yeah.
Was it all? I've just got to ask. Was it always a metal band?
Yeah, it's been always a hardcore metal.
Yeah, always heavy.
Yeah,
always heavy.
We are definitely like going more towards a true mainstream traditional hardcore style. That's like what we all really love. We have a lot of metal influence, a lot of punk rock influence. I do. So to blend it all together, I mean, we've listened to everything from hair bands to hair metal to straight crazy thrash death. So the genre of music that the 4 of us listen to is off the wall. As when we were speaking before, Jason grew up in 7, 8 years old, being on stage playing country jams with his dad on drums and guitar. So we've all been doing this a really long time in different ways,
Yeah, very cool. So let's touch base with Jason. We'll talk to each of you about where you guys came from and where you started. Jason, what did you actually play on stage?
I started off playing drums when I was like 14 in my dad's band. Got some experience playing that and had to move over to guitar. My dad's a guitar player and just kept playing. Did a lot of cover band stuff.
Cover bands are fun. I've been in cover bands. They get people dancing instantly.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about being in a cover band is people just know the songs, which is sweet. Cool. So you've played drums and guitar. Do you play any other instruments?
I've played bass a little bit in some bands.
Are you one of the guitarists who plays bass, or are you a bass player who plays
No,
bass?
I'm a guitar player who plays bass.
Got it. I'm a bass player who plays bass. So there's always a lot. Like, some people are like, yeah, I'm a bassist. And other people are like, I have played bass.
Drummer who plays guitar who plays a little bass.
Nice. Very cool. So what other bands have you been in? Do you want to name drop a few of them?
Oh, geez.
You don't have to name drop them all by any means.
Miss Misery with John, the drummer for Old North End. My dad's old country band years ago, Little Creek. North Star. Man, there's so many. Flipside, I played drums. Another cover band.
Nice.
Local.
Indecent.
Indecent Exposure, yeah. I played guitar. Our old guitar player, Jim Ty, his band, I think is still going, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I was going to say, I've
Big
heard
up
at
to
least
Jim
a couple
Ty,
of
our
those.
old guitar player.
Absolutely.
Nice. So long time in
Many
the music
years.
scene.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
No, I'm not trying to make it sound like you've been around a long time, but like when
Little
you're
bit.
She's
7
trying to
years
say you're
old,
A little old.
when you're
man.
7 years old on stage, like that's
14,
No, he
yeah.
says 14, but I remember him playing a little bit younger. He's being
Yeah, I
modest
played
right now.
before that, but I think the first bar I played in, I was like 14 years old.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't
got
six
it.
hip and
Got it.
at
Yeah.
Texas playing. I didn't mean that. But
Oh, still, if you're in the music scene when you're that young, it's like your life. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Very
a
cool.
lifer at that point.
yeah,
It's,
nice.
I love that one picture of you on stage with your dad. You were definitely like 6 or 7 years old in that picture with you.
Yeah, I think it was a band practice. but
Yeah,
I was,
yeah.
I've been
It's
watching
just-
his band play and watching their drummers and guitar players since I was, as long as I could remember. I got pictures of me sitting in guitar cases watching his band.
Very cool. Okay, so Eric, where did you start?
I actually don't have as long of a history in the music scene as these guys do. First off, I'm like 11 years younger, I think, than the next youngest
Yeah.
person in this band. But I, like I said, haven't been involved in the local scene very long. I'm actually not originally from Vermont. I was born in Salisbury, Maryland. Moved up here when I was a kid because my dad got a good job here. I got my first guitar. I actually started off as a guitar player. And I got, what I thought at the time was, kind of a crappy guitar. And just kind of fooled around with it. Took a couple lessons, got to the point where this guy was like, hey, stop paying me so you can come jam with me. Like, just come jam with me. Okay, yeah, sure. And kind of fooled around with some friends in different projects throughout my teen years and then kind of just put it away.
Yep.
And then picked it up again in my 20s and still never really went anywhere with it because I couldn't find anybody to play with that wanted to play what I wanted to play.
Like-minded musicians.
Yes. Well, and because it's the music scene, while it's good in this state, in this area, it has its ups. It also has its downs. And we're a small state. We don't have, everything's spread out. So if you want to find somebody to play with, you're looking in Plattsburgh, you're looking in Rutland, you're looking in the Northeast Kingdom. Nothing's ever localized. Well, so that it didn't take off. And then a few years ago, a buddy of mine said, hey, are you still playing the guitar? Are you still interested in trying to get in a band? I said, yeah, let me dust this thing off. And it started as a cover band. And then we kind of outgrew that, started writing our own stuff. And then the whole band kind of just outgrew itself and everybody wanted to go in different directions. So took the rocking side of that band and kind of just went off and did our own thing. And in the midst of trying to kind of get that off the ground, these guys sent me the message saying, hey, would you like to try out on bass? Apparently they liked something that they saw in the way I play or the way I act or whatever. And I said, yeah. And then I think they sent me like 3 songs to practice, gave me a week to learn them and showed up to try out. And then the rest is history.
Nice.
It was great to touch on that. He came in and we had tried so many people, and nothing against anybody that came in, everybody really put in, but he was the only person that when we would go to shows, his presence, his performance, he really put it, even though he wasn't playing the same kind of music that we were playing or something, he just seemed like he was going to be the right fit. And everybody else that came in was just trying so hard and he just came in and it just felt right. It was like we knew every other practice or person that we had try out over the years. It was like, come back. After the first practice, it was like, here's your bass, here's your rig. We know you don't got that because you're a guitar player. Be in the band. You know what I'm saying? And
it felt really natural from my end too. You know, when you show up in a room full of dudes that at the time I didn't really know these guys all that well, and you know, having seen them, gone to their shows and been in the audience a few times, you know, it was like, okay, well, this is a little nerve wracking. But then, you know, you get through a few renditions of a song and then you're just jamming, you're broing out, and
nice.
Next thing you know, you're.
I've got to say,
sniffing each other's farts in a van and sharing a hotel room.
Amen.
Seriously, big shoes to fill, because I've been to I don't know, probably 5 of your shows, and you guys are tight. Like, you're a solid band, where a lot of local shows, you go to them, love the local shows. Don't get me wrong. They're working towards what you guys are at, though, where
we spend a lot of time in the woodshed.
Yeah, clean. Yeah. Like, it's obvious I've been in those bands where it's like, we played 8 hours straight and we played the same fucking song over and over and over. And it's like, when
those 10,000 hours.
Yeah, when you stop that song and everyone just knows you're done together, you know that, like, that tightness, that time, that effort, like, those are big shoes to fill.
And that was the thing with Eric. I don't mean to cut you short, but it's that we have a lot of stops and a lot of stuff. Like, our songs aren't necessarily difficult in the way that they're written or anything, but they're very tight, as you say, and there's a lot of stops. And people think because it's punk rock and hardcore, it can be loud and messy and noisy, and it doesn't have to be. And we're not that band. We
structure.
We spend a lot of time in the woodshed to get that tightness. Don't get us wrong. We love it. We love loud, heavy, fast. We love it all, you know, but our music, when we stop, we want the whole place to hear a pin drop, you know, and then we go back into the next. And he had that. He understood the cleanness with the heaviness, and he just grew as a bass player. Like, he was definitely a guitar player that played bass at first. He played with a pick when he first came in.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He did, and he
turned up really loud.
But but now he plays with those fingers all the time, and it's just now he's a bass player. Yeah, and I know he plays guitar still. Cool, that's his thing. But he is definitely came into himself.
Right, he fit into the band as a bass player. Yeah. That's really cool. Good story.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you guys are incredibly impressive. So,
Thank you.
Shout out, if I was going to try out as a bass player for your band, I would be terrified. So
I try out for second guitar.
I am a bass player who barely can play guitar. I do my best. But yeah, no. Oh, very cool. Yeah. Cool. So, Chris.
Uh-oh. I'm the old guy. I'll make it quick and short. As short as it can be. There's a lot there, but we'll be quick.
I was going to throw it off. Where did Oz come from?
Oz? Well, actually, I from the old North End, back in the 80s, there weren't punk rock kids, skater kids, hardcore kids. And if they were, they definitely weren't from the old North End. They were transplants. I listened to a lot of hair metal. 10, 11 years old, got into the punk rock scene, 11, 12 years old, and they're like, Ozzy, you know, all the punk rock kids, skater kids, Black Sabbath. I had big hair, so I was the metalhead guy with all the punkers and skater kids.
Apparently the only one.
Yeah.
I always thought he had a pair of ruby slippers kicking around somewhere.
Well, and I screamed Sharon a lot, but yeah, so that name just stuck, and it's evolved over the years. It was Osborne, actually, like, for very many years, and then it went to Ozzy and Oz, and now it's gone to Oz One with the band. So it's just a transition that's from a little kid that just stuck, you know, and so. One of those things, like all the singers, frontmen always had to have that name for the band, you know, you got to have the band name in your name. So
I feel like these name transitions probably really transpired from multiple cease and desist letters.
That too, yeah. And also, and there's some reference to marijuana in there too, so it goes a long way. So I have to keep it real.
That is true. There is a little reference there.
So yeah, with that, I mean, I started playing in bands. I started going to shows as a young kid. I started playing in a bass at probably 12, 13 years old. Went to my first show at the Teen Center at about 12, 13 years old.
Nice, cool. So you're
originally a bass player.
I wanted to point out, just to people who are listening,
I am the singer.
You are the front man.
Yes,
like,
I sing. I sing
you
for
are the
Old North
man
End.
that I recognize.
The first couple, yes, no. The first couple bands I was in, I played bass, and then one of my singers couldn't sing anymore, and I sang that show, and it just took off. In 1990, I did a battle at the Memorial Auditorium, a battle of the bands.
Cool.
My band took second place. They asked me to sing. I'd never been in front of a big crowd or anything like that before, and I did that, and that was my first time really doing it and being up there. I remember we covered Anarchy in the UK by the Sex Pistols, and it's funny because that song is a very punk rock, whiny, I am man, and I came out and I sang it like, roar your mother. And I don't think anybody had ever heard it like that before, and people were like, wow, and that, and just that drew me to it. Right then, I knew this is what I wanted, this is my life. I was blessed to grow up in Burlington in the late 80s and the early 90s when the hardcore scene was amazing. Yeah, if you got anybody that had a chance to go to shows back then, playing bands back then, even up to 98, 99, 2000, this scene, Burlington, the Teen Centers, for one, 242 Main is one of the oldest running punk rock clubs in the world, much less the United States. We're talking about Minor Threat, Fugazi, back in the 80s, 7 Seconds. I was lucky enough to play with all of my hero bands, Hatebreed, Madball, Sheer Terror, Warzone,
Blood for
Cro-Mags, Blood for Blood, Murphy's Law, the list goes on.
Yeah, very cool.
And I'm very blessed to be a part of that. Unfortunately, at that time, heroin was very big, making a big come up, and I got involved in drugs. The band I was in at the time, 12 Times Over, which was the first band that I really sang for and made me want to sing. We did stuff. That was the band I played all those shows with.
Such a good band.
Thank you. But 95, 96, 97, we were doing great. Playing a lot. Our manager, Eric Sherman, homeboy, what's up, Eric? Big ups to Eric. He was the drummer in the band. We were one of the first bands at the time to have 2 singers. There wasn't many bands that did that. Crown of Thorns, Scarhead, and No Redeeming Social Value were like 2 of the only bands that had 2 singers, so it was kind of cool. But I ended up getting caught up in the drugs. I went to prison. 1998, I got locked up for about 10 years off and on. I moved to Florida, where my mother was, to try to get a better life. My mom passed through, and when I was in Florida, unfortunately, I just kept living that life. I couldn't get my stuff to get my shit right. My mother passed away in 2005. I caught another 6-year bid in prison right after she passed. I did that time. 2011, I came home. I've been clean since then. I've gotten married. I've been playing music with Jason for the last 7 years. Since we've started Old North End back up, it's been a life changer for me. Keeps me young. I'm 48 years young now. You know, I'm the dinosaur in the room, so it's good. But this music definitely keeps me alive. I get the utmost respect from every single person at a show. I love this scene. I love this town. I work full time. I'm a father, husband, and I sing in a hardcore band, and we all put a lot into this scene because we love it. You know, we have families, we have businesses, we have homes, we have all that stuff. And we go out and play until 2:00, 1:00 in the morning on a Wednesday night when we got to be to work the next morning for $50. So it proves, you know what I'm saying? And if there's an out of town band, we'll probably try to give it to them to help them out if need be, you know. So we do it for the love of the music. It's why why I started it then, and it's why I'm still doing it today.
Yeah,
it's a real expensive hobby.
I know it well.
We love your equipment, though. I love it. You got everything looking good over here. You got to admire that.
I've got to say, when I think of the Vermont music scene, and I've always been in the music scene, but kind of what you guys were mentioning, like I grew up on the Canadian border. Like we played in bands. In the barn, like that's where we played.
Yeah,
and
that
it
was your practice spot.
Right, and it was actually way more convenient in some ways. Well, we had no audiences. No one ever complained about how loud I was playing. So I kind of missed that. So when I moved to this area in 2018, Old North End, and just the scene that exists here, respect the venue. Like that phrase is like burned in my brain when I think about the Burlington music scene. You respect the venue.
We don't have, especially then in 2018, you know, Christy Lestrada and the Gloom Garden, you know, if he wasn't doing what he was doing, I mean, he was putting up his parents' house for bands to stay, bands to play, not making $1 doing it, and being very humble and nice about it, being taken advantage of by people in the scene, not respecting the scene,
busting their ass, you know, seemed like day in and day out to coordinate these shows and get these people from all over. It seemed like the country to come through here, and you play in this basement and. You know, in the middle of winter, you know, in fucking February when it's minus 20 before the wind hits you, and just never asking for a dollar.
Yeah.
Just doing it for the love of the music, for the love of the scene. I mean, that really shows kind of the core character of this music scene.
And that's what we love about this scene is that, and the respect amongst the people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like you need to feel comfortable here, and we want you to feel comfortable here. You know, we don't, and respect is a very big issue. We have got somewhat of a bad name about, you know, shows and stuff. Our shows get kind of rough and whatnot. But the one thing that everybody will say is that we are the most respectful, humblest band, that we just, the venue, the people, the touring bands, especially, I can't stop but say it 100 times, you know, thank you for being here to the crowd. Yep. You look at any, you know, our shows lately have been great. We've been blessed with some really good shows. But we've worked for those, I feel like. But I mean, the times that we put in so much work and didn't get nothing out of it, except for there's a reason we're doing this, and it keeps going. And our homies in the Path, Voices in Vain, all of the bands, they're all working hard to do the same thing and to put out the same image. Voidbringer, Sachem, all these bands, you know, they want everyone to be in a safe space. They want you to no matter whatever you're into. I love the fact that, like, you don't just go to a hardcore show or a metal show. Like, you go to a show and there is a hardcore band, a metal band, a punk band, it's across the board. There is no genre, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that because, for one, you're getting more kids in the door, for one, because there's that many different people. And then everybody can see that, oh, wow, we can be in the same room together and have the same image and want to do the same things, you know? So,
and that wasn't the case 10 years ago. There was no hardcore bands to be heard of. A lot of metal bands, a lot of punk bands, but...
Well, and there was just all that bullshit rivalry, you know, for a long time, too, amongst the subgenres of music.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's kind of just growing up and growing out of that bullshit.
I was 100% one of those douchey kids.
Oh, I mean, we all were.
These emo bands aren't hardcore enough for me.
Oh, yeah. That was me throughout my entire teen years.
And I'd be lying if I said when I was a hardcore kid, when I was a kid, that I was nothing but a hardcore kid. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you listen to, and that's what it was. But
don't stray from the path, or you're
it's like it's
PNG'd.
It's so weird because this is a scene where you're supposed to be different, and it's okay to be different. But it seemed like at that point, it really was one of the most judgmental scenes that there was out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it's great. I mean, now we live, my motto is, it's straight up, you come and show respect for everyone. As long as you're not, I put my feelings right out there on a child molester, a rapist, somebody who abuses women, children, elderly, people who can't stay out of something. As long as you ain't one of those people, you are welcome. You know, and that's just the way I feel about it. And I don't, I'm not a religious person myself, but I don't care about people's religion. That's your thing, and that's your thing. It's just about respect.
Yep.
And Burlington really has that right now. I can honestly say that with the scene, with everything. Even with the little bit of drama that's going on Facebook,
I think
with
I
venues,
saw the drama.
with the venues, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Like,
it's just we need venues.
yeah,
and
people getting tiffs and stuff, and I'm sure it's all going to be fine. That all seems like it's working out.
It's like, well, it's gone, and it's here, and it's gone. But it's like we don't have very many venues. That's the bottom line. And so we have to respect these venues. So whoever's right or wrong, don't make the bands pay for it, and don't make the business owners pay for it.
Right.
I mean, they have to make a living too, especially bands that tried to stay open during the pandemics and gave us a place to play.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot.
Point.
There's two sides to every coin.
Yeah.
And moving right along.
Yeah. No, I think I know exactly what you're talking about, and that just seemed everyone's been so fucking stressed out. I think that's part of our problem across the board. And we've all been patient for too fucking long, and we're all just really, but that's it. You just got to keep on trying, everyone's going to have a bad day every now and then. Just try and
go to these shows though, and look at these kids' faces, and they're smiling though.
Yep.
When they're there,
ear to ear.
They're smiling. I mean, me on stage. I mean, that's what every show we played, I post pictures of me, and I am just on stage smiling. I mean, you cannot tell me that we don't love what we do. Like, we love this music. We love it. And that's, and we get that from the crowd. If we were up there playing and people weren't reacting like that, we wouldn't react like that, and we wouldn't play and have the energy that we have. So what we do for people are like, oh, you gave us so much, it was so good to see you, and you made it feel so good, and you guys were so great. It's like, well, you make us that, we do this for you, but you make us. If you're playing in a room and 20 people aren't moving, it's a dead room. But I would rather play in a room with 20 people moving than 50 people not moving. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and that's what's great about Burlington. And that's the other thing, is that those 20 people shows are few and far nowadays. It's like, it's not.
Yeah, they're turning out.
But they're turning out. The kids are coming out,
well, everything's opening up again, which is, and people are getting a little less nervous about things.
Yeah. Well, I think people are just more willing to accept the risk nowadays. Like, it's here, that which shall not be discussed is probably here to stay. So, I think people are just kind of mitigating that risk, weighing it. Okay, I'll go here, but not here,
Right.
It comes down to, what are you willing to accept as a risk to go out, but that's outside your front door these days.
That's you catch it.
Just don't know.
Doing nothing, basically. Yeah. One thing I kind of wanted to mention, I've mentioned this with other bands before, but you kind of touched on it, is I don't know what to call it. There's an energy. You go to a show, there's an energy at the show, and the crowd gives it out, and it's before the band even starts.
Yeah.
Like, you walk in and you feel that tension, or it's like
electric in that room.
Yes, 100%. There's an energy, and the crowd gives it out. And then the band responds, and it's this like push-pull effect, and it's just so beautiful. And I kind of wanted to point out one of the greatest shows I've ever been to, because you guys played at it, and it was right after they opened everything up again last year. Venue unnamed on Church Street. And it was, I think there was like 5 bands on that ticket, and I know you guys were on it, and the energy in that room was insane, because we all went and got our shots, and we all proved we had our shots, and it was like that first moment where we all got to just be together again and hear the music. And I don't think I've ever felt the energy that I've felt before in a room like that. And it was a little teeny tiny venue.
Yeah.
That was the thing when we first started playing up there. It was just like, wow,
Yeah.
you know. And that was it. And nobody had been out in so long. Nobody had been out, and you could still see that, you know, there was the fear, but then once it started, people just lost all of that. It just was gone.
Yeah.
Like once the
You're
music
pent up for
started-
so long, and you have an outlet, and it's there, and it's safe, and you know, let's face it, you know, things do get a little rough at heavy shows, so you get to punch somebody in the face without getting arrested, you know, even if it's unintentional, and you just get to let that shit out that's been festering for a year.
Yeah.
All this uncertainty and this fear, you know, that was basically pushed in your face 24/7.
And
now you have an out.
Yeah.
Fucking take it.
Yeah. And you got
let that shit out.
And you're booking
did.
showcases with these touring bands who are going through the same things in their state.
Yeah.
And they're getting out, and they're probably actually going to towns where there's still fear.
Yeah.
In certain states where it's not the same as Vermont, where people, you know, in other places where people aren't going out. So they come up in here after this whole thing, and they see, of all places, Burlington, Vermont, everybody's vaxxed. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
If you're not vaxxed, you're wearing a mask, you're being what you're supposed to be. People are respecting, you know, the whole thing. And it's just like, oh my God, if it's really alive, it's coming back, you know? And John Berg from The Path, he brings in some amazing bands. I mean, him and Matt Kimball, both those guys just...
Big up to our homies in The Path.
Those guys have, between the bills they put us on and the bills they book, you know, it's untouchable.
Yeah.
Untouchable.
Those are... It's funny to say it, but those guys are both huge sweethearts.
And they're two of the nicest guys you've seen.
Serious, punk, like hard punk.
That's John. That's John Contra, man. Contra, Long Island hardcore.
Well, to touch on something that you had said real quick too, and it might have been that same show in that same venue. I remember it was the skate park show that got rained out last year. And we had to move it up indoors.
Yeah.
And I just remember, that show, I mean, what was there, like 10 bands on that show? Because it started in the middle of the day and it went until like midnight.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, everything got rained out. It was like lightning striking down the road. We were at the Winooski skate park to start this off. And like a band drove up from Florida. And they got out of their car, they set their shit up, they played a set, and then kaboom! It's like, okay, shut it down. Let's move it over here. You know, long story short, it all worked out. And then I remember just kind of walking around in the shadows, kind of in the back, watching everybody while I think Shore Rights was playing. They're like a psychedelic surf rock group. Really cool dudes. And I'm just looking at people's faces. And yeah, it was like when everybody first got to come back out, and it's just a shit-eating grin from ear to ear. And it was almost like everybody's standing, you know, arm to arm, interlocked around each other's shoulders, just swaying back and forth to this music, because it's like everybody finally gets to, you know, we spent so long talking about our differences and, you know, whether it be political, religious, you know, is COVID real or is it fake?
Yes.
all the bullshit that everybody was just arguing about for so long. And then it just, once we all got in that room together, it didn't matter.
I think it was almost like cynical. Like it was like, fuck you, world. We did this. Like that's what I got from it.
Yeah.
Is that smile and that look was almost just like we did it. You know what I'm saying? We made it. Everybody's not dead. You know, it's still here, yes, but we know that there are ways that we can combat it, and that's what I got. I got like a cynical Joker like sneer out of it, like just like we're live. We are really like the coming out of the bomb shelters. You know, the French coming out of the trenches. I mean, that's what I got from that, and the shows kept going. I mean,
they
our
ratcheted
last
it
three
up
shows
for sure.
at the Monkey House, per se. That place is
Oh.
Scott Gray.
Shout out to Scott Gray and the Monkey House too, man.
That is Mr. Promotion, man. That guy books your band, goes to every single show, whether he books it or not. every different
Promotion,
genre.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Putting
yeah.
out hand
Crazy.
flyers. If they don't allow him inside, he's outside, rain, snow, sleet.
Yep. He'll hang
He
outside a
promotes.
higher ground with 500 flyers in his
Yeah.
hand and hand them out before the end of the show.
I mean, just Scott Gray,
It's-
man. That's
that dude is
my dude,
dedicated.
man.
We need
And
those
he don't
guys.
even play in a band. Yeah, he doesn't even play in a band. He's not from Burlington. He's from Texas. He still books shows in Texas twice a year. I mean, he's not even
He
from
just
here, and he
loves music.
puts on more shows than anybody else. You know, just like Jim's Basement. Shout out to Jim's
Mhm.
Basement. You know, a place that unfortunately it's really too small. And because the scene has grown, there was a time where that was a great place to have shows.
That
because
place used to pack
unfortunately, people just weren't coming out. And that's the one thing, you know, don't talk bad about the scene if you're not going to come to a show.
it in. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Bottom line, you know, don't say how shitty the scene is if you ain't going to be there.
Yep.
But yeah, like Jim's Basement and all those venues are really not like they used to be anymore. So when you do have the venues, the one night a week we played at Nectar's last week, and
Yeah,
it was
that was
awesome.
fun.
There wasn't a lot of people there, but it was a great time, and everybody that was there, staff, people loved it. And it was great. We finally, I'll let somebody else talk in a minute, but we finally played Higher Ground for all the years last Sunday with the mighty Agent Orange from back in the day, old skate punk heroes, you know.
SoCal OGs.
It was so cool to be on that stage, to hear us up there, to be there. The crowd, it was probably, 80% of the crowd had never seen us before.
Yep.
So it was a new group of people, and they just took to us. You know, you would have thought they were there to see us. It was just
It was like a
amazing.
hero's welcome to walk on that stage.
Cool.
It's really
Good to hear.
That
Yeah.
was great.
There's a funny line in I've got something else to say. I'm going to
Yeah.
say this, though. Funny line in Vermont where people, when you live 2 hours from Burlington, they don't come to local shows. They hear about a big show and they plan 2 months ahead of time. They're going to drive to Burlington for that show. Like, it's a whole thing where it's hard to get people out. So that's good to hear, though, that you got in front of some more of these people, because that's how you make fans, I think, from those outlying regions.
Yeah.
And that was on like a Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah.
And it was still an amazing show.
It was Sunday
Higher
night.
Ground.
It was
Higher Ground was
Sunday
Sunday.
night. Sunday night.
Sunday night.
But
But
still,
that
but
show had
people
also
had to
been
work,
rescheduled from a year
And
ago.
we were asked to
Oh,
play. Yeah, it was a rescheduled
But we got
show.
2 days notice. And
Like
said, hey,
literally
play.
less than like 36 hours.
2 days.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, we're there. We were like, oh, really?
For
Oh,
sure.
we can do it. And we were so psyched. And like you were saying, is what I want to say is we are playing we're playing, it'll be after, but a show at Bolton Valley. And it's going to be so great because they're promoting it to all the skater kids and snowboarder kids and the families out there. And 90% of the people probably aren't going to be people that have ever seen us before, but they're going to be young kids
I don't
who
think
go
they
to
know what
shows
they're
just to
in for.
support, but they're going to love it. And they're going to love it. It's
Of
us and the
course.
Path playing.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's going to be, and they're, two completely different styles of hardcore, but that just blend really well together though. And these kids aren't going to know what they're in for. And we've been making a big deal about the cold. You know what I'm saying? We're playing in the middle of November on the mountain. October, like it's, like we're playing in January. But we're really excited. But that's it. Reaching out to these new crowds. We love that. We love, like, we would play the place out in Essex with all the rock bands. And cover bands
Backstage?
backstage in Essex, and we had no business being there. Like,
they're a cover
literally,
band.
like we are playing with rock bands, country bands, and cover bands,
Yep.
and we would steal
And
the show.
singer-songwriter duos.
And singer-songwriters, Chris and
Erica.
Chris and Erica,
Shout out to Chris and Erica. Love you guys.
But yeah, and we did not belong there. And you would have thought that they would have been like getting in their trucks and leaving. What are these boys doing? We'd steal the show
those
every
people
time.
got down.
They loved us. I mean, loved us. And then Todd Hemingway, the other Chaos guy that books all the Chaos shows and booked a lot of that. He would have us play all the time with these bands and at his basement parties and it was great. And we became friends and these people would actually come and support us. And now when we play at the Monkey House with none of these other bands, you'll see these people older
Showing
people,
up,
dedicated.
50, 60-year-old people that saw us from these cover band shows and playing in these, coming out to see us. And it's great, man. And it's just, that's what makes you feel good. You're like, we just don't appeal to, we're not just, everybody gets it. It's just a good vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like metal's changed so much because I talk to people and I wouldn't expect them to like metal, but that's the thing, is that Ozzy was cool when they were young, and now my 65-year-old father is like, like Black Sabbath. I like the heavy stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is all changing a lot from what it used to be. Because it's funny thinking about the '80s and just the attitude about like, oh, the bad people.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah. The satanic panic surrounding
Satanic
everything.
panic. Yeah, exactly. Just this weird vibe that like punks were bad, but honestly, or punks metal, whatever you want to call it. People who wore black clothing and heavy loud music.
Chains and liberty
There's not
spikes.
video. Every time she says metal, I cringe over here. People would be like, what's wrong with him?
I
Every time
apologize.
she's okay.
There's a touch of metal.
No, there's tons of metal in our music. I would be lying
For
if
sure.
there's a ton of metal influence in our music, and in the way I sing and everything too. I mean, I grew up on metal. That was my roots. But yeah, that's just an inside
We all
thing
to
with
this
the
day
band.
listen to different genres of music.
Yes, so it's just like, it's great when metal. I think of us as a hardcore band, like, and so it's just like, it's always people, and I'm always like, we're not metal, we're hardcore, and it's like, it's not, whatever. We're a heavy band. We are metal. We're very metal. We're very hardcore.
It's funny because the term hardcore, because I also grew up in the middle of nowhere, so. my
That's where some of the best hardcore bands come out of.
Oh, that was it. The hardcore kids were like, I wouldn't call you guys hardcore from the way that they defined hardcore was kind of like the wimpy emo kids who cried a lot, but it wasn't that heavy. That was the hardcore band.
Yeah, no, and I totally get it. And
Throws me off.
And also the metalcore scene took over, where they took those slow hardcore breakdowns and them really big, heavy, and then they take the melodic harmonies over the hooks and the vocals and the singing and the highs and the lows. So you got one guy who, sounds like straight, he's coming out of the pits of hell, and then you got the next, angelical angel flying down saying, oh,
one day there was hardcore was just a touch different than punk. You know what I mean? It was
faster,
so similar.
It came up from it, the roots of it. So, and now, it's like you say, it's just so much. There's so much there. That's why I love it, because the Path are definitely a hardcore band. But you put our record and their record on at the same time, and you'd be like, those are two completely different styles.
Totally different engines.
You know what I'm
They're like vastly different, but it's similar in so many ways.
Fast. The main thing, it's fast, heavy, aggressive,
groovy,
raw,
then positive. You got to put all the other aspects. That's why that genre is so big, because it can't always be fast without having the other aspects of growth and a lot of that. And that's a big thing that I speak about in our music, is the growth, is coming out of the gutters, is coming out of the trenches and having a hard life, and not using that as an excuse to keep living that scapegoat theory, not being a part of the self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm told I'm a junkie and a loser my whole life, so I have to be a junkie and a loser, where you could just move on and just better yourself. And only you can do it. And we believe that, and I preach it in almost every song. I mean, it's probably to the point where it's annoying, It's like, that's my image, that's my voice, that's my purpose,
And that from hardcore, punk, metal, I'm going to all the words.
Mash it all together.
It's such a positive, wonderful community in a way that I go to some other shows that I've had some not fun experiences at other genres shows.
Yeah.
You go to a metal show, you might get punched in the face. But
they'll help pick you up.
Six people are going to pick you up off the ground. Like, you really don't, you don't see that. You go to a rap show. Oh my God.
Yeah, go to a rap show and punch somebody in the face.
Dude, they'll elbow me in the face and get out of my way, woman. And it's like, holy shit.
You might get a bloody nose, but if you
It's-
fall, 10 people are going to pick you up.
Yeah, well, there's no
Instantly.
chance. Chances
Instantly.
are, if you come to an Old North End show, you're gonna get punched in the face, but it's not gonna be bad. So don't be scared. It's like
not
but
gonna be-
everybody will pick you up.
not gonna be an
and
You
stuff.
can avoid
Yeah.
it.
But it's so funny how our music, how it's so underground and but so many rap and these genres of music are taking the stage dives. The rappers all do it. The Machine Gun Kelly, and they're taking the punk rock and the one and the Blank 1-8. All that different.
Yeah, they
punk rock.
take whatever they can
And they're
monetize,
like, oh,
right?
look at, I mean, I
Samples.
remember,
All the samples.
When this one band came out with this hip hop band came out with that song "Party Like a Rock Star." You know what I'm saying?
That
And
was
like
so funny.
I was in the South when that hit. You know what I'm saying? And that was like everybody's like, "Party in the hood, party like a rock star." Party.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're wearing like studded bracelets,
Yep.
tight pants, belts. It's like. You look at a lot of these mainstream rappers now, and they dress like punk rock hardcore kids. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Oh,
they
yeah.
got Iron Maiden
100%.
shirts on, and it's like
Metallica,
really?
Megadeth
Yeah,
shirts,
you know, it's
yeah.
like really, bro. Then all the bling and everything, but it's great.
Yeah.
That just shows you how far it stretches. You know,
Yeah.
and they see the energy, and that's the main thing. The other genres don't have that energy that heavy music does have, and so they take that participation. That's how, instead of just being a rapper and you walk back and forth just saying your lines, you're actually getting the crowd to participate, and you're getting them to sing along and stuff like that. So I see it, but it's like great. It's like, yeah, the underground's actually not so underground. You know?
Which I think has always kind of been
Yeah.
true. There's just the big, we live in an age of big media,
Yeah.
and they really control what you
Mhm.
see and where they think, that if the clothing style that a person walking around in the ghetto, they might not sell it to you for $500, but the lady working at Gucci will.
Yeah, most definitely.
And that's where it comes from. So much stuff is just from normal people, like
Yeah.
art,
Yep.
fashion, whatever the culture is. They steal it from below and they sell it from above.
Yep.
Definitely.
It's funny with that how so many like you want to keep it underground and you want it, but do you? I mean, are you against getting
Right.
paid?
Yeah.
Are you against
What does selling out mean to
videos?
you?
Mean, I'm
Yeah.
looking at YouTube right now, and I see the people who are really making the money are the independent people who are doing it themselves, and they're the ones that have the millions of views, and they're the ones that are getting the checks from YouTube and getting the money that nobody else is getting, because us touring bands aren't getting paid. I mean, we make money on merch. Unless you're a signed band with a guarantee and a rider that's got clout, you're not getting paid. And it's hard as a promoter for myself. I try to tell these bands that have a big guarantee, I'm like, this is Vermont. This is like, unfortunately, you might be a big band someplace else, but you not a big
You
band
ain't
here.
shit here.
You don't have a draw here. So I have to use local bands to get a draw.
Yeah.
To pay you all the money and not pay my local bands.
Right.
I hate
Yeah.
that. That kills me.
You're lucky we like
I
doing
mean,
this stuff.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
and we do it, but these bigger bands need to understand that too. I mean, yeah, you did your but it's like so many bands are so quick and they get out there and they play for a year or two and they get signed.
Yeah.
And they don't do the work. They don't put the
Yeah.
footwork in. They
And to be
don't.
honest,
Yeah, you gotta pay
I
to
never
do
hear of them.
Yeah.
Half of these
Yeah.
guys, I
Yeah,
literally
I-
never hear of them
And
again. They
they're
might come.
I-
tickets, and I'm like,
Same
Yep.
thing. Yeah. I'm like, where the fuck are these bands popping
Yeah,
up
I've
left
I've
and right?
gone to probably 20 of those Lodo shows, and it's like at least half of those bands don't even exist anymore.
Yep.
As far
Right.
as I
Yeah.
can
That's
tell.
the other thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
They can't, and that's what those shows usually are. Is like their first tour after they
Yeah.
got signed, and then they're just gone.
And then they figure out that it's not all glamorous and
It's so
champagne
fun,
and
yeah.
cocaine and
And it's funny,
hookers.
but it's funny.
you know?
Next thing you know, they're
It's
all
real hard work. Like I said, you're sniffing each other's farts in a van for 6 hours
right.
to roll into a venue, be told, get your fucking shit on stage. You're on in 20 minutes. I don't care if you haven't showered in 2 days. I don't care if you're fucking hungry.
Right.
Get up there, get on there, and
you
then
got
get
20
the
minutes
fuck
to get off.
Here's $20.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you got to
And
be
if you
dedicated
don't like
to do that.
it, they'll say,
Yep,
"Don't come
we'll
back."
put the next guy on.
Yeah, because
Right.
there's a
You're
band,
replaceable.
You
Their
know,
bands
there's
are a dime a
band that'll
dozen.
do it, and it's you have to respect that the monster and the mentality of it. Like when you're on the road, that's what helps us with being a band that books. shows. So we understand, hey, so sometimes you have to go without so others can eat.
Mm-hmm.
But, when the tide is high, all the ships rise. So
Right.
that's the way we got to look at it.
Yep. The scene helps itself.
Yeah. Yeah, very true.
It's one big hive, There's nobody failing.
Yeah.
Well,
if people keep on sticking
one fails,
together,
we all fail.
Yeah,
that's what
right.
I should have said.
There are some failures. I've been in failures.
Stand for something.
God, how many
fall
bands
for
have
nothing.
I been in that failed? Next question.
Moving right along.
We're already at 48 minutes.
All right, cool.
But one thing I wanted to point out, it's so hard to tangibly prove the point of music, which frustrates the hell out of me because I'm a musician, as you all are.
Yeah.
And I can't really speak to Burlington because I live in South Burlington now. But dear Lord, Burlington, you guys invest a lot of money into physical art, and then they have invested nothing into the music scene, which breaks my heart because the home of 242.
Yeah.
What just invest some money into that. And I think that energy, that moment at that show, that moment where we all came out of hiding. And we all kind of the leaning, we're all together.
Yeah.
That moment, that energy, like that, we need it. Like that's part of the human experience.
Oh, for
Definitely,
sure.
yeah.
It's quantifiable once you've experienced it, but it's very hard to explain to other people. And I wanted to point that out.
That's awesome. And that's why we're still doing it right now through this whole thing, is because we do get that, reciprocation back from people, and it is above and beyond. I mean, like, that's what I said. Sunday, when we played at Higher Ground, it sounded like there was 400 people in there at the end of every song. And that, to me, was I was just taken away. I mean, I'm almost in tears, because that's humbling to me.
It's awesome, yeah.
That every single song, it got louder and louder and louder.
Yep.
And it was just
it was
great.
Loud before we got on the stage.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
the roar of that crowd to walk out from behind that curtain and step on that stage, it's another one of those things where if you haven't experienced it before, it's very hard to explain.
Yeah, and thankfully we've been playing a lot of out of town shows, Long Island, Brooklyn, Albany. We've been, we played Empire Underground in Albany. We played in Long Island at Shaker's Pub. We played New York City. We played Brooklyn at the Kingsland. And those bigger shows, even though the crowds weren't big, but the bigger venues with the bigger bands definitely help prepare you, because we're the little guys in the fish tank there, and we get up there, and when we get off the stage and the bands are the ones that are coming up to us and like, great set, that was great.
Nice.
And then you get a call the next day that says, hey, we're working on something to get you guys back. That's when you know, all right, we made
you're doing something right.
We made $75. We spent $400, but guess what? We
So
made
worth
these
it.
connections that are just unreplaceable, and
sure.
and they want us back.
Yeah.
So we passed. You know what I'm saying? We passed the job interview. And unfortunately you have to have that, because there are a lot of noisy bands out there that go out unprepared, unprofessional, bands that haven't been together long enough, that have 3 or 4 songs, and then they kind of fake it through the rest of it.
Yep.
And you can tell, and then you're giving. So I understand why these bands are like, why the venues and the promoters are like, you be here. This is your time slot. You get on, you get off. This is what you're getting. You follow this. And then after, as soon as we've done that with every promoter, with every club, as soon as we have done that and done what been professional, we get the callbacks. You know what I'm saying? We're asked to come back. We're told, and that's what matters. That's all that matters. That's why we do it. And to be able to play out of town and have people like you, we love it here. Burlington, and we know Burlington likes us and loves us as a band. I'm not trying to say that in a big way, like a big-headed way, but I know that the way that they react to us, that they love us. But when you get a good reaction out of town too, it's like, oh, we are doing this for a reason.
Right.
It's not just our homies at home because they're our homies. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody goes to your friends' shows, but it's like people that don't know you that are actually buying your merchandise. And that was, so and buying the records, saying they want to hear it. When a person buys a CD, especially in today's media age, when nobody has the time or the attention span to listen to a full CD.
When you're just so inundated and saturated with all this stuff that sounds, I mean, a lot of it's cookie cutter music. no offense to the artists out there who are putting in the work and, honing their craft and getting those 10,000 hours. But I mean, I'll even tell people, I know that we sound like a lot of other bands, but, here's what you get from listening to us. Here's what you get from coming to one of our shows. You're part of that tribe afterwards. You might take your licks. It's almost like getting jumped into a gang.
And then we told him that when he joined, that's exactly what it was. And that's how we take this. And it's very, very, it's our life. It's very serious to us.
And then you start seeing these people that are showing up at 1 show, 2 shows, 3 shows. And then, it goes from, hey, I know that dude or I know that chick, to now you're on a first name basis with them because you just, you spent an hour before your set hanging out outside, just chatting
now
with these people.
Hug.
And now, you have a rapport, you have a relationship, and you're building community.
Nice.
I mean, that's actually what the music scene is. It's a big community. And the more everybody can look past their petty differences with this stuff too, and get over the gatekeeping and all that bullshit, there's power in numbers.
Yeah,
and we're all feeling
everybody
put down,
wants to be a top dog.
Especially you can look at what's going on these days in the world, in our town, whatever. There's power in numbers.
And that's what's hard because there are so many topics that we want to touch on with that, as far as like what's going on in the world. Like it's not. Unfortunately, I wish that it was that time when we could sing about the best of times and we could sing about drinking and partying and all of that. But the world is a fucking madhouse.
It's hard to sing about drinking and partying when some people can't afford to put food on their table.
And I see it, and I see it, and then I see, that's the one thing about Old North End. I think I really want to touch on this real quick. We haven't touched on it. Is even though Hodge isn't from the neighborhood, John, myself, and Jason all grew up there. And we've seen shit in that neighborhood growing up there that some people don't see growing up in, Elizabeth, New Jersey, Boston, New York, LA. It's always been bad. And it's like, but people want to change. They give you the programs, they give you everything. And we want more for people. We want more for the world. We want more for musicians. And so many people are just so stuck on what they're about and what, there's only one cause, or it's all about this cause or that cause.
Yeah. And my cause is more important than your cause.
And I can't, and that's why, like, I don't comment on Facebook, Instagram comments, because that's one thing will blackball your band.
Oh, yeah.
One bad comment to somebody taken out of text, out of whatever, and it's over with. So you have to keep your opinions to yourself, except for the way we do it through the music.
Interpersonally.
And the whole thing about Old North End is better. That's coming up, being, wanting more for yourself than what you had. And we all love our parents, and we all know how hard they struggled to take care of us. But of course, we want better. We want to do more, and we want better. So to be able to get that vision out in an aggressive manner, but
it's therapy.
It's
very cathartic.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it's a give and take. We give, a medium that is therapeutic to the people in the crowd, or even when they're listening in their car or on their computer or whatever. But it's the same thing. We get that energy from them, and just knowing that we're putting on for them and we're just leaving it all on the stage, blood, sweat, tears by the time we're done. I mean, that shit's therapeutic.
Yeah. And
that's better than any drug. It's better than any sort of, pill therapy to, whatever. You got depression, learn a fucking instrument and get on stage.
Yeah. If you want something betterment, and that's the thing, it's there. It's all there for you, and we're just blessed to be a part of it. We're blessed to be a part of this scene. We're blessed to see, what comes from it and what people do get from it. And that's the one thing I want to touch on, the whole metal hardcore. Like, the one thing we always express about our music is that even though I sing really heavy, I want people to hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So even when I'm trying to get rah, tough and growly, I want it to be heard, because there is a point there. I am saying something. I feel like I'm saying something to somebody else. It could be, but in my mind, I'm saying something. So it's great that you can be aggressive and still be and that's that that hardcore thing. That's where you get that hardcore thing. It's almost like hip hop over the metal. You know what I'm saying? Like, just so it's like, and people always say that. They're like, I listen to your words and I relate. People relate to what we're saying, and I'll end it with that,
Awesome. This has been such a great conversation. So you guys have a show coming up. This is going to come out on November 2nd.
Excellent.
Okay.
November 4th, Montepoole, Plattsburgh, New York.
November 5th.
November 5th.
No, wait. Shit. Now I gotta check. See, now you're making
so
me
it's a Saturday.
Yes.
So
Saturday.
The first Saturday of November.
The first Saturday of November.
It is the 5th.
The 5th. November 5th. Thank you. Hodge is always on point with that. I do smoke too much reefer.
Yeah, he smoked pot, forgot.
But never too much. But this lineup is probably going to be the best one the Montepoole's ever seen. In my opinion, definitely. But it's us.
It's going to be a good one, yeah.
It's us.
For sure.
Luca from Chicago, great band. They played one of our release. They played our second CD release party a few years ago, which was Hodges' first
that was my
real
debut with the
show
band. That was
with
my first album.
At the Gloom Garden, which was probably the show you talked about because it was also with Senseless, and Resistor did play that show too.
I believe so, yeah.
But so it's Resistor, Senseless, both from Long Island. Luca from Chicago. Dead Solace, great local band. Those guys are killing it. They're on the road all the time. Big ups to our homies. And us at the Montepoole. We love Plattsburgh. It's our favorite place to play besides home. They always come out and put on for us.
Nice.
That scene is real close to the Burlington scene. It's where they go. So if you hear this podcast on the 2nd, please come over to come across the pond. And if you're over there, come out, have a drink. We have a ton of merch. I want to put that out there real quick. We're on all social medias. You can get our merch off from Bandcamp. You can hit me up directly. My phone number and everything is on all the social media platforms.
We deliver.
And if you are local, if you want to avoid shipping and you're local, I will bring it to you. So
this Saturday in Bolton.
And no,
we'll have played Bolton by the time this airs.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah,
you guys should have been there.
Jason,
this
couple Saturdays.
What do you mean? This ain't live this whole time? Thank God.
Awesome. Okay, Montepoole. November 5th.
November 5th.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being
you.
on the show today.
Absolutely.
You're amazing.
Thank you for having us.
If you want to check out the show notes for today's episode, it is going to be at vermonttalks.com/36. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. You love what you do.
Peace.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the end of the show. Subscribe to Vermont Talks on your favorite podcasting platform. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all over the web. Contact Becca at vermonttalks.com if you'd like to be interviewed or if you know someone who should be. Thanks so much to Jason Baker for creating the show music. The views and opinions expressed by the guests are those of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Vermont Talks. Any content or statements provided by our guests are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. And that's what was new in the 802. Have a great day.